was a huge New Ager. I was big time into psychedelics. When COVID hit, I was taking mushroom trips almost nonstop. I had gotten a hold of a batch from a friend, and I go ahead and I take a normal dose or whatever, and it goes really, really bad. I literally went into respiratory failure.
Welcome to God's Voice Daily. These are the raw phone calls I get every single day. Real people sharing real supernatural encounters. Some of them will go on the main show, God's Voice Today, but every phone call has something worth hearing. And here is today's featured call. Enjoy. Heather, you said demons took over your life after drugs. Tell me more. What happened?
Yeah. So I was a huge New Ager. I was big time into psychedelics. And back in 2019, I had a lot of trauma that needed healing from a really bad divorce years back. And so I got into psychedelics, and I loved them. I mean, I loved them. And in 2019, I started getting into them super heavy, where it ramped up to when COVID hit. I was using, oh my gosh, I was taking mushroom trips almost nonstop. Well, in August of 2020, I had gotten a hold of a batch from a friend. I lost my connection, and I got a batch from a girlfriend in Vegas. I was living in San Diego at the time. And I was at her house when I got them. I picked them up, and I took a little bit, and they're fine. I get back to my place in San Diego, and I go ahead and I take a normal dose or whatever, and it goes really, really bad. And at the time, I thought that this was just a horrific trip. I thought, okay, this is just a bad trip. I spent the night. It was a horrific night. It was the worst. At that point in time in my life, it was the worst night of my life. I literally went into respiratory failure. I'm seeing little shadows running around my apartment that I'd never, it was an experience like none other of any of my other trips. And at the time, I'm completely ignorant of that. Because of my New Age beliefs, I believe in God, but I don't believe the Bible is like the truth. I believe it's basically just a bunch of made up stories, mythology, like a lot of people call it. I thought Jesus, I was like, well, if he did exist, he's probably just like a prophet, like a really good dude. I believe more, and there's a man named Bill Donahue that kind of preaches Christ consciousness. I was into a lot of that. So I didn't even believe that Satan or demons were a real thing. I thought it was just something that, you kind of said, like, I'm fighting my demons, kind of more of a mythology type of thing, right? Or I'd say every once in a while, not today, Satan, just kind of a joke. Like, I didn't even I never even thought that they could be real. So after that night, I spent the next weeks researching what could have went wrong. What happened? Were they laced? I just kept on thinking they're laced. They had to have been laced, because it was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. So I ended up finishing, there was like 2 ounces of mushrooms. I ended up just doing small doses and everything went fine throughout it. So they couldn't have been laced, right? Until the very last dose that I took, the same type of thing happened. And I could go into the details of those trips. I mean, the details are
Please
crazy.
do. Go into the details. I want to hear the details.
So so the first one, what happened on normal mushroom trips, it's very fun. It's everything's kind of pretty, everything's light, positive, very positive. This instantly went dark. My apartment turned into a very dark setting. Objects were literally breathing and moving, which I'd never experienced before. What immediately started happening in my brain were these bright laser light effects, Like I couldn't see. That's all I could see. If I closed my eyes, that's all I could see. If I opened my eyes, that's all I could see. My legs weren't working. And then, like I said, I started going into respiratory failure. I was trying just to sleep it off, because mushrooms, especially on the come up, will kind of make you a little bit sleepy in a way. And I thought, well, maybe I can just doze off and just sleep. And whenever I'd start to kind of like fall asleep, I would literally stop breathing. I like, it kind of felt like I had taken an overdose. Like I thought maybe they're laced with an opiate. Like, did I overdose on an opiate? Like I couldn't breathe, and it felt like my organs, like my whole, everything around my chest and my waistline was being squeezed. Like I just like a wretched squeezing feeling. And then every time I, start to doze off, I'd wake up like gasping for air. Like I could not breathe. So that wasn't working so well. I called my upstairs neighbor to take me to the ER, because I'm like, I'm dying. I'm going to die. I'm hearing in my head, get a gun, and off yourself. I just keep on hearing that.
You actually like an audible voice, or is it just your own thoughts?
It was like my own voice, but telling myself that's what you need to do.
And you were pretty close. Like you actually wanted to do it?
If I would have had a gun.
Really?
The pain of what the sensation of these lasers were going through in my skull, I just wanted it to end. I wanted it just to stop. It definitely was not a normal trip. Nothing normal about it. And like I said, I saw, when I could see before the lasers got really bad, were these little shadows, little people, like just, they'd hide behind something and then, scamper off somewhere else. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. So I call my upstairs neighbor, and she comes down. I go out on my patio and I lay down out there, and I'm like, not really praying, but I'm just talking it off, like, just God, please, just like make this stop. And she had a very positive lightness about her energy. And we just talked about going to the ER. And I think I just kind of talked it off. I said, let me go back in and just, I feel like it's kind of lifting. And it did start to lift. And I feel like her becoming present with me kind of chased off whatever it was. Because now I know that it definitely was not laced. It wasn't the drug. It was absolutely entering a different dimension. I had access to something I was like I took a wrong turn, right? So it lifted and it became lighter, but I was bawling, I was crying, because I felt like I literally almost died from mushrooms. And I couldn't figure it out. And I felt like, this had helped me get off of Prozac. It had been such a good experience for about a year that I've been using them, and had gotten me through those hard months of COVID. I was like, now I'm scared to death to even try them again, or, I'm like trying to figure out what could have happened. So over the next weeks, all I did was try to figure out what went wrong. And glad, no matter, I'm a big researcher. I'm a nerd. I geek out and I research. And I could not find any testimonials or anything that came anywhere close to, you read bad trips of somebody, oh, I saw this scary thing, and nothing like what happened to me. Like what happened to me was I was dying, literally dying. When it started wearing off, there was no water in my body. I'm a retired pro bodybuilder. And so I know what it looks like to have be completely depleted and be drained of water and dehydrated. It was like there was no water left in my body. I was just paper thin skin, and something had definitely got hold of me. So it wasn't until I got through this whole bag and until the last trip, it kind of started going south again. And I remember so clearly, it was the first time I called it. I said, in Jesus' name. It was the first time that I had ever done anything like that. And it lifted. And the trip went on totally normal. but exactly what had happened at the beginning of that bad trip started to happen and set in. And I just stood in the middle of my apartment. I said, in Jesus' name, I can go. And it just dissipated and it went on as a normal trip. And, you know, you would think from there on, I would have put 2 and 2 together, like, you know, but I kind of thought, well, maybe I took a wrong turn, you know, as far as, you know, I accessed the wrong dimension or something. But no, I just, you know, I was a little scared, but I kept going. And I definitely cut back. And I was definitely not, I don't think I took another trip or anything after that for at least a couple months. It was about 2 months. And things went fine after that for a little while. Until I actually ended up moving to Vegas about 4 months later, bought a new house and moved into the house. And I'd been dating a new guy and I wanted to introduce him to mushrooms. And it was the first trip that I did in my new house. And it was May 7th. I remember this very well. And I was very scared. I was very nervous to do this trip because I'd only taken, I think at that point, probably, I don't know, like maybe 3 or 4 trips in between that last one to this one. And they were kind of iffy. They weren't great because probably I was nervous and stuff. But so I go ahead and introduce him to shrooms and everything was going pretty okay until I went to my bedroom to change clothes. And I remember distinctly, I saw shadows out of my side eye. And I went, oh my gosh, something's not right. Something's definitely not right. So the following month, and there wasn't something was definitely not right. I shook it off for the trip, but over the next following months, things in my house are not right. I bought it, my house wasn't new. It was actually built in 77. And so things start happening in my house. And I shake it off to, well, I have an older house. Maybe I have some spirits here that are, and at that point, let me say again, I don't know that demons are a real thing. I don't really know if I even believe in ghosts. Well, I thought, yeah, I believed in ghosts. Yeah, that's about it. I guess I believed that there were, you know, spirits, but I didn't really know if it was angels or demons. I didn't know. I just felt like, you know, I had played with a Ouija board when I was a kid. I definitely had a couple weird experiences with that, but that's about it as far as anything like that. So over the next months, like I said, things are getting weird in my house. Things are coming up missing. I'm seeing things move in my peripheral. And over the next year, it's ramping up. I was also when I went through my divorce and everything, I drank a lot. And in those years, I definitely abused alcohol. And so I didn't drink anymore. Well, about a year after that trip that I feel introduced something into my home, I went on a little bit of a drinking binge. And it was the first time that I drank in probably a couple of years. And I blacked out one night really bad. I woke up probably I was guesstimating about 18 hours later.
Whoa.
And my face was demolished. My eyebrow had been torn open. It desperately needed stitches, and I was so embarrassed. I was so beat up. I literally looked like somebody had taken a bat to me. There was blood all over my house. I woke up in my bed, but my pillow was drenched. I had hematomas, which I later found out about 6 days later when I finally went to the hospital. I had hematomas, 4 of them on my skull, and they were like goose eggs. I'd been really beat. I mean, like, it was bad. And I just feared I'd gotten really, obviously, too drunk. I don't know how I got that drunk. And I was a mess. And I just obviously hurt myself. But how did I hurt myself that bad? The guy that I was dating lives back in San Diego. And I FaceTimed him when I woke up, and he freaked out. He's like, who beat you? He literally thought somebody had beaten me up. And I said, no, I've been home. I haven't seen anybody. He thought that maybe I went out with somebody or somebody got a hold of me. And I'm like, you know me. I would not I wouldn't go out on a date with anybody. You know, it's crazy. I wouldn't do anything like that. I'm a homebody. I'm a loner. I'm a total introvert. And I did have to tell him that I drank. That was embarrassing. And at the time also, I also have to add this in. I was diagnosed back in 2016 with severe spinal stenosis, which is the narrowing of the nerve column. There's columns that run through both sides of our spine that hold nerves. And when those narrow, it pinches down on the nerves and it causes ridiculous pain. And I had a pretty severe case of it, probably from years of the bodybuilding. And then I also had fibromyalgia, and I believe that was from a lot of trauma. And so I had chronic pain terribly. And by that time, I was using a over-the-counter. It's used as like a natural opiate, kratom, and I started using that because I didn't want to use opiates. I didn't want to use actual drugs. I just wanted to use something natural to help my pain, and I started using that. So I'd also mixed that with the alcohol. So that also, I thought, well, obviously I probably just really made a mess of myself and passed out. So
Heather, what do you think happened? You think you just mixed a bunch of stuff, you blacked out, and that opened kind of like an opportunity for a demon to take over? Hey, before we get back to the episode, can I ask you for a huge favor? Can you hit that subscribe button or like the video? Any comments, any engagements help me push this video even further so more people can see it. Thank you in advance. And now let's get back to the episode.
That was not me that hurt myself. It was definitely a demon, because it ramps up to what happens in the next few years. Yes. So over the next few years, what also happened, I had really horrible concussions from that. I called them falls, Latin. I just said I fell. My mom came out to help me. I was like, I fell, Mom. It didn't look like I fell. I have all the pictures, all of this stuff, all the documentation, everything. So I start using ketamine to heal. I start adding on all these drugs, right, to heal the concussions. Well, I eventually started using a street opiate. I went from the kratom, because the kratom got too expensive, and I started using a street opiate. All of this drug use is opening doors to demonic possession. It started with infestation, and they started very, like I said, I'd see things move in my house. Maybe something would come up missing. For instance, one night I'm standing in my kitchen, and I have a big glass lid on top of my stove. I'm sitting in my kitchen, and all of a sudden it bursts, literally just bursts. About an hour later, I'm standing there about ready to smoke some weed, and I have my pipe. It's a glass pipe. It shatters in my hand. This is the type of stuff that starts happening. There's so many examples, and it wasn't until what they do is they ramp up with the demons. They start just as you keep sinning, they just ramp up what they do. And if you don't obviously repent and turn away from your sin, they have permission to just keep on keeping on. There was one night I was out in my hot tub, and I was babysitting a dog, and dogs see everything, by the way. I was babysitting a dog, and I have also my dogs, and I'm outside in the hot tub, and the dog I'm babysitting just starts freaking out, totally freaking out. And my dogs see everything too, but this one in particular was really freaking out. I have a huge backyard, and I look to one of the side walls, and there's just dozens of little shadow people with their yellow beady eyes lined up against the wall. I didn't know it at the time that they were moving closer in towards the house. I just thought that, they would just stay there, or they wouldn't. But at the time, it was them presenting themselves that they were going to be moving in closer and closer to the house. So all this stuff is just presenting itself to me, and that I'm ignoring it because I'm just going about my merry way, just using the drugs that I want to use, doing what I want to do. And I'm not really ready to accept what I'm seeing. I don't even really know what I'm seeing, to be honest. And it wasn't until one night I'm standing in the middle of my kitchen again, excuse me, and I'm in the middle of my kitchen and a spoon comes off of my counter and lands right in the middle of my floor, right in front of me. I'm like, okay, it's obvious there's something here. But I wasn't putting two and two together. It's just a little spirit. There's a spirit here. There's something, I don't know, maybe I need to exercise the house. I don't know. But as it's getting worse, my drug problem is getting worse. I'm just falling into this horrific drug abuse. And it's ramping up to where I'm using the ketamine nonstop. I'm mixing it with opiate. I'm mixing it with coke. And at the time, I'm just using the cocaine through nasal, but it got ramped up to IV. And so I tried getting off of the opiate in 2023. There's so many details to this. I'm so sorry. It's kind of a mess. In 2023, I tried getting off the opiates, and I went to Mexico to do a psychedelic clinic that gets people off of opiates. I came back and I got right back on. Plus, I started adding in the coke, and things got worse and worse. And by then, I'd ruined my finances so bad. And so I was completely stressed out, not sleeping. And I started having what I called falls. Well, after first he broke my wrist, then it was my pinky, and then it was my elbow, and then my ankle over a 4-month period between October and December. And all through this time, I was in such denial. I would feel my body move, like he could move my body. He was going in and out of my body at the time. There were days I'd be using, and by nighttime, I would be able to see, if I closed my eyes, I would see just bright red. And if I squinted down really hard, I could see the little yellow dot, little yellow beady eyes. And the red represented the main demon, and the yellow little beady eyes that I would see would represent I would call him his minions.
Jeez.
It's like he had like his gang, because demons run, and if there's one, there's more. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
There's not just one of them, and there's usually a head honcho guy, and then he brings his flunkies that he commands. So that's how this started going. I would be using and using, and I would chalk it up to, I just fell asleep. I just, be standing in my kitchen or wherever I was, using the drugs, and I'd nod off. But you don't launch. I mean, he would literally launch me into a cabinet or into my kitchen island, or he would slam my head down on the counter or slam it.
Did this thing ever talk to you? Did you ever hear, other than that one time where it tried to pull the trigger?
Absolutely. So how he would communicate with me, I love music. I don't love it like I used to, because it's ruined my love for music. I don't even really listen to secular music almost ever now. I would have music on in my house. I have, the Sonos speakers. I have a system that goes through my house. I always have it on because I'm doing drugs and trying to feel good. So when people say that, when it's said that Satan runs the music industry, I cannot tell you enough that is the absolute truth. They know every lyric, every artist, everything. He would say I'd have like Pandora on. He would choose the music and communicate through the music. I could have on, say a genre like EDM, and he would play country if that's the song he wanted to convey to me by lyrics. So finally, I started getting irritated with not being able to communicate clearly. And believe me, it would be unreal how precise the communication, like the songs he would choose. Like, oh my gosh, it's so bad. I could go walking into a Walmart and like, he knew one of my favorite songs, love songs, was, I guess you could call it a love song. It was Hysteria by Def Leppard. I remember the first time this happened, I walked into Walmart one night and Hysteria by Def Leppard comes on. And then as long as I'm in the store, this would happen the whole time I was under his possession. He would play songs directed at me in stores.
So the airwaves were controlled by the demon.
The airwaves are completely, they can manipulate and control it.
Yeah,
1,000%.
and that's no secret. I mean, the whole entertainment business, it's ran by him. But I'm curious, Heather, how does it all end? Is there a happy ending?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I wanted to say, so what I said to him was, I said, you're not supposed to speak to him either. What I wanted to say to him was, to communicate with him, I would ask him questions. I'd say, move. If it's a yes, move something on my right side of my body. If it's a no, move something on the left side of my body. And so that's how we would mainly communicate. I'd ask questions. He would be able to give me other ways of communication. Like he would, yes, it was usually through music, or he would also give me stuff on my phone that would pop up on my phone, and how he'd also communicate. So eventually, yes, I did get sober, but not before he one night slammed me down so hard on the floor that I ended up with level 3 scoliosis.
When you say slammed, so it was like from the inside of your body, right? It's like you were doing it to yourself.
Yes, I'm not doing it to myself.
No, I mean, it looked like let's say if there was a bird's eye view camera that was watching all of this, does it look like somebody actually grabs you from the outside and throws you, or is it more something like possession of your body and it was throwing you from within?
Possession of my body. I would think that you would be able to tell that I'm not doing it. Mm-hmm. It would look slightly natural, but also forced at the same time, if that makes sense. Because I would not be able to slam myself down hard enough on the floor. Even if you're just standing there and you just drop down on the floor, you're not going to be able to create level 3, a spinal injury that bad if you just drop yourself. It would have to be something very forced, right? Like literally slammed down. And he would throw my body. I mean, I ended up with over 60 concussions from him just slamming my head against the wall, slamming my head on the counter, on the floor. And this night, he had happened to come back a lot harder. I quit using the cocaine for a couple months. And when I started up again, he came back, and that's when he took full possession. Because there for a long time, he was just going in and out. And then when he took full possession, that's when it got really bad.
So you activate them when you take drugs. It's basically overpowers your body, and they take over. And wow, interesting.
Yes. Drugs are such a doorway. I mean, it is, and all sin is. You know, they say, well, you know, Christians can't have demons. They can't. If you sin, you can have demons. And from what I've experienced, they actually go after the Christians the most because they want us. I love this quote by Philip Anthony Mitchell. The devil doesn't mess with what he already owns. He doesn't. I can't remember exactly how he says it. The devil doesn't go after what he already owns. If he already knows, you know, you're an atheist. And,
it's wasted effort, right? It's not
right,
not smart.
Exactly.
Inefficient.
Exactly. So when I finally got clean, completely, yes, the red, you know, I finally was able to get rid of when I closed my eyes, the red is gone, and I can't feel, and that's the other thing, I could feel him move around in my body. And then the little minions, as I would use more and more and more, would enter in. and that they would fill up my body and you can feel them. I mean, but it also depends on the level of possession, because if it's most of the time they're just like a parasite. You can't feel parasites, right? They're mostly like parasites where you can't even feel them. But as I would sin more, yes, it would get way, way worse.
Interesting.
And it taught me the biggest lesson about sin. I mean, I couldn't believe that it was actually real. And I was astounded. It took me months, Vlad, to even accept it. It wasn't until he took full possession that I was like, okay, this is serious. I have a demon possession. I went down to the Catholic church down the street to see if I could get some help. And the father there didn't believe me. He did not believe me.
It's not the first time I hear something like that. The people that should be helping you the most are
exactly
just as clueless.
I couldn't find any help. It was just me digging in to the internet, and it took a lot of digging. It's not easy to find. I mean, you would think it'd be very easy, but it wasn't. But also, they know your thoughts. I think they have to get permission to. I don't know exactly how that works, but once he knew, because at the first half of this, I don't think he knew my thoughts. But at some point, I realized he knows everything I'm thinking.
Well, probably because you were doing drugs, you opened the door wide open for them.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. Have you seen the movie Nefarious?
No, I've heard about it.
Oh my gosh!
Somebody recently brought that up.
Yes, whoever wrote that knew what they were talking. Knew what's up, because it is very, very dead on. It is crazy on. At one point, he says to the doctor that's trying to counsel him, he says, "Can I ask if he can take possession of him? Will you let me enter you?" And I think that was the point where he was able to know everything about the doctor. Like, that was by giving him that accepting, and giving him the okay. And by what I was doing, I was giving these demons the okay. He claimed to have had part in killing my brother. He claimed to have had part in my divorce. He claimed to have done all kinds of things in my family generational line.
Wow. If you don't mind me asking, what happened to your brother?
My brother died. He had a really horrific skin disease, which I do believe is, it's ironically called the devil's disease. And I think people don't even know just how dead on that is. It's a skin disease that no doctors can have an explanation for. A lot of doctors say that it's psychosis, that it's not even real, but these sores are very, very real. And they've studied these sores, and there's literally fibers inside these sores that are white, purplish red, and red. Well, what I've come to discover is those are fragmented bone. It represents bone and blood vessels. And what I believe is those are little souls that, this sounds so crazy. Those are souls implanted into human flesh. And it sounds crazy, but I believe it 1,000% after what I experienced. And only about 250,000 people have been diagnosed with this, but it gets into the organs and it overrides the system. And my brother actually had 3 heart attacks, and the third one killed him.
Jeez.
It's called Morgellons disease.
Well, Heather, in closing, I got another phone call here coming up, but take us back.
Sorry, that was a horrible overview of it.
No, you're good. You're good. Close the loop on all of that. Like, tell us the happy ending. How does it all end?
The happy ending is I completely gave my life to Jesus. I learned so much about the Bible, and I gave everything to Jesus. I got rid of the drugs. I quit doing everything. I even got rid of weed, which, oh my gosh, was the hardest thing ever for me. And I gave my life to Jesus. They eventually, it flushed them out. But I did have horrible spiritual warfare for a good 4 months afterwards, and I still deal with it, but nothing like it was.
Yeah, the outside will always try to get back in, right? But now you're equipped. You know how to fight it off.
Absolutely. I'll still walk into. The other day, I was just listening to. Like I said, I rarely listen to secular music now, and I was listening to an EDM station at the gym, and ironically, one of the main songs that he always would play. Oh, this is the other thing. He claimed to be in love with me. And this is another thing that demons that they claim to be in love with humans to manipulate you. They don't love that. This is a manipulation tactic. And he'd play me lots of love songs. Well, one of the main love songs that he'd always play for me came on my EDM station the other day at the gym. I was like, how does it? It's a country song. I'm like, okay, that is. I know it. I know what he's doing. So he's just trying to put some fear into me, let me know that he's watching or whatever, and he's messing with me. But did
you have a deliverance done? Like, did you have somebody pray over you?
No, I did not. Okay, and that's another full long story. I ended up in the Mormon church by total foolish accident. And luckily, I got baptized as a Mormon. It did nothing. It didn't help me at all. But luckily, I started seeing the red flags about 2 or 3 months after I was baptized, and I did a deep dive on the whole Mormon religion. And oh my gosh, stay away from that. Oh my gosh, Joseph Smith is no, big no. So I turned away from that completely. I renounced it. That was a huge mistake, and now I'm just strictly straight Christian. But no, I did not have a deliverance. All I did was completely stay in prayer and faith and trust. And the more you trust God, trust Jesus, the better protected you are. And I just did a ton of deliverance prayers, a ton of worship. I mean, stay in worship. My whole house now, I remember one night when it first took possession in the first week, I was screaming out. I was like, my God, this is a house. Because like I said, I did believe in God as a New Ager. It wasn't the Bible God. It wasn't Jesus. It wasn't, and I'm screaming out one night, this is the house of God. God lives here. You know, because I was very spiritual. And the demon goes, I can't remember exactly how he conveyed it. He goes, no, it's not. And I just remember looking around my house going, you have tons of drugs in here. This place is a mess. You haven't cleaned in months. This is not a house of God. Mm-hmm. And now I've completely turned my home into like, it is very godly.
Your environment affects everything. I mean, think about this. You create an environment where there's holiness. You play praise and music or praise and worship songs, and parasites, they don't thrive in that kind of environment, right?
Exactly.
And demons, that's what they are. They're parasites.
Cut them off. They're total parasites.
It's kind of like
just suck off
in your body, right? Parasites in your body. If you give them sugar and all the just junk food, you create an environment where they just love and crave more, and they will make you crave more of that. And same thing with demons. They're parasites. They're spiritual parasites. And if you create an environment that you give into lust, give into sin, all that stuff, they just want more of that. And the best way to cut it all off is to clean out your environment. Well, Heather, thank you so much.
Sin. I can't convey that enough.
Sin is an open door to all of that. And drugs. Oh my gosh, drugs is like you're poking holes in a veil, and they just come in.
Drugs and lust. The whole sexual thing, pornography, having sex before marriage, fornicating, doing bad, naughty things sexually, and drugs. Those two things, I tell people, just stay. And unforgiveness and trauma, heal those, because they love it.
I love how a former guest mentioned recently, he said that God told him that Jesus told him specifically, he said, if you're working on holiness, you're not wasting your time. And I think that's something, there's a lot of truth in that. It's something to pursue. Well, Heather, thank you so much for your time. Enjoyed this.
Thank you.
We'll stay in touch.
Sorry, I was all over the place.
You're good. It was exactly what you needed to be.
Of stuff, but thank you so much.
I appreciate it. God bless you. Take care.
God bless you. you.
Bye-bye. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Before you go, I have another powerful supernatural encounter for you that you cannot miss. It should be on the screen right now. And don't forget, this is a daily podcast. Every single day, I publish a brand new episode, a brand new testimony. So subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.